Welcome back to the Agony Booth. I'm Captain Joe Dove, and joining me for the first time on our podcast, the incomparable, the amazing Greg Vorab from Star Trek The Undiscovered Pod. How are you, Greg? And welcome to the Agony Booth.
Thank you so much for having me, Joe. It was a pleasure to have you 2 weeks in a row on Star Trek The Undiscovered podcast.
It was a fun time. It was a blast. Be sure you go check those out on your favorite streaming podcast. But as you saw from the top of the episode, we want to say a very special thank you and welcome to the collective on our con level, and that is Holly. Holly, we thank you very much for becoming a tier 3 con level because we have avenged you. And you are now in the halls of the mighty, and you're getting a shirt and a sticker, and you have a fun chat with us in our Discord. So you have all the fun things that are coming your way. And when Jason comes back, as you know, Jason is not with us this week because he is on a special mission all the way to Iowa because he was going to go hang out with the James T. Kirk statue. And he did, and he had a fun time. So let us then hop into the hellos because it's Friday. We're saying hi to everybody on Friday. Hi, Mom. Our wonderful patron, Holly Mack, 79. Thank you so much again. Our good buddy, My Figure Universe. Greetings and salutations, my good sir. And Wes. Hello, Wes. Good to see you. That's from another friend of the pod. Wes, it's good to see you online. And of course, hello.
Twin Cities.
Yes, the Twin Cities podcast. Thank you. Well, we have an episode to get into. And boy, do we have an episode to get into. And I guess we'll just start with a synopsis. It's a quick one. I'll read it. Star Trek Enterprise Hatchery. Captain Archer orders the crew of the Enterprise to save a Xindi insectoid hatchery. Straight to the point. Very short. Thank you, IMDb, for that. Oh, boy. This is going to be an interesting one to get into. So let us hop into WTF. Did we just watch? Yes, Greg, WTF did we just watch?
I don't know. It's kind of like a fever dream. that wasn't a deleted moment from Chain of Command, was it?
No. That's a little fun with magic.
Yeah.
Video magic. No, that's the original. No.
I don't remember him being punched by a Cardassian.
Right in the elbows. But yes, when it comes to this Hatchery episode, what did you think? What were your WTF?
Okay.
Hatchery?
Maybe it's an unpopular opinion, but okay. So it's very hard for me to criticize a Xindi Saga episode of Enterprise. I watched the Xindi Saga so much more than that series as a whole. And Hatchery would not be an Enterprise episode that I would watch in like, oh, I want to watch an Enterprise episode right now. Let me watch Hatchery. Even if I wanted to watch a Xindi somewhat standalone episode, obviously that wouldn't be one of my choices. But you know what? I'm a completist. So if I'm watching the entire Xindi Saga, I will watch Hatchery.
Okay.
And here's the thing with it. It's not that I think it's a bad episode. It's that I think it's an annoying episode, especially on first watch, because you don't know what is going on with Archer. You know, and when it's explained at the end, you go, oh, okay, yeah, perfectly logical explanation. No Star Trek pun intended there. And as you watch it, I mean, it is an episode that if you have someone being introduced to Enterprise and they're watching the Xindi Saga, they could skip it. It doesn't move the plot that much along, except for, I feel, great headway into the relationship between Reed and Hayes, which was very bad at first, and then little by little as it gets mended. That is probably the first episode where that's approaching, where their relationship is getting a little bit better.
Right. For me, what did we just watch? It was a weird one. It was like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but on a slower level. I felt like they were like setting the precedence for the future of Star Trek because the insectoid species kind of overtook Archer, and in Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, you have the Gorn spitting at you and infecting you slash making babies out of you. So I find that they probably took little pieces of that later on. So this was probably an inspirational episode, and little did we know. But it also ended up changing the format on some Star Trek shows or run, because later on you got your Discovery, your Strange New Worlds. It's one season with an over a long prolonged arch instead of episodic television. And I think that part of the reason why Enterprise suffered was because of this long arc with the Xindi, and people kind of got tired of it. I thought there were a lot of great episodes. This might not have been one of the better ones because the beginning is so slow, and I feel like it took a long time to get somewhere. It was a long road getting from there to here. Sorry, I had to. We had to get those Faith of the Heart puns out early, otherwise they'll just linger on. But I really enjoyed some of the effects that they did, making the little Xindi baby that they got to hold, and that that probably should have been a toy that they sold somewhere. And I really found that the effects, having Archer kind of like get that goo on him and just have that whole perspective kind of really mess with you, because you're like, all right, did that have an effect with him? Did it not? That was weird. And it bugged me out, like as you said, but at the same time, it was like, well, yeah, totally, that's what's happening. And I was hoping that maybe something from that fluid kind of infected the rest of the crew, and that's why he was locking everybody up, because maybe he caught it and they just weren't catching it, and they were doing this big fake out. But unfortunately, that was not the case. And that kind of made it suffer a little bit. They had a chance, an opportunity to do something wild and different, but they kind of played it safe. And I felt like they could have done so much more with it, which is a sad moment as you think of it as time goes on. All right, so we're going to figure out, well, why did they do this? Yes. Well, why would you do that? Greg, I leave the floor to you. Why would the the team do this whole Hatchery episode?
They're in the middle of the Xindi saga, which it's a little unfortunate that it turned some people off, because that drew me in making Enterprise one of my favorite Star Trek series. The Xindi saga has a lot to do with that. Wow. I think it was something with this episode was more like doing something like a ship show, as it's described by, I think, Ronald D. Moore, Rick Berman. They always used to say when the budget wasn't there, they would do a ship show. And, something like an Enterprise would be a great episode, like A Night in Sick Bay, where Porthos gets ill, and it's one of the most endearing episodes there is. And there's, of course, some TNGs and DS9s that were ship shows. I mean, Duet from Deep Space Nine was essentially that ship show where you don't need much, you don't need much effects. It's not one of their bigger budget episodes like it is at the beginning of the season and the end of the season. It was written by Andre Ormanis, who is one of the best Star Trek writers there is, and then later the Orville, too. I think it was a budget thing. I can't say, even, there have been ship shows throughout all the series, throughout the whole franchise, that they've really figured out how to do something really special with it. I mean, look at the Drumhead on TNG. These are all great ship shows, as they're called. And I think that was the thing with the Hatchery. It was about a 22 to 24 episode season of the Xindi saga. And for me, it's a very compelling storyline, and it was a very compelling season. And you can get a couple of duds, and I don't think Hatchery was their biggest dud. I think whatever the one where they're in the West with the scabs was an episode you could definitely skip if you're watching the Xindi saga. I think that's what it was called, the scabs thing. But yeah, I think the budgetary reasons here, and perhaps, they were doing such great writing throughout that whole season especially up to that point, you've got some amazing episodes. That some, in my opinion, some of the best that Star Trek had across the franchise. So that could be a reason for Hatchery, a little fatigue, but overall, I think it's an okay episode. It's not an episode I would say is the worst episode, but it's annoying. It's annoying for many reasons, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the one of the biggest problems with this type of episode is the pace is so slow. It kind of drags it along and makes it harder to watch because of that. Because you're waiting, okay, something's gonna happen, and it doesn't happen until the end. It's kind of like the Incredible Hulk version from Ang Lee. The Hulk didn't show up until the end of the movie, and it annoyed everybody. And that's kind of like a similarity here. And also, like, watching it recently, of course, for gearing up for this episode, you get an appreciation for the CGI that they were able to do at that time, especially for TV. It was almost movie quality, and I think that's a lot of the reason why the movies had a hard time kind of catching up, because the TV was just as good as the movie, so the average viewer was going to stay home. And I agree. The main reason why they did this was to kind of just fill in the overall story arc with the Xindi and probably try to give you some type of empathy with those characters. And when you got the flip that Captain Archer was kind of succumbing to the powers from the Xindi goo and was becoming protective over the insectoids, it kind of gave you this sense of, okay, well, the humanity in Archer is being accentuated by the insectoids, but it's kind of leaning towards the insectoids rather than anything else. And I thought that was a magnificent part. Though I wanted more goo on him. I mean, not in a weird, creepy way, nothing, Pornhub related, but it would have been dope if that thing like exploded and then there was just like a whole lot of like, oh, because I think that would have let everybody go, oh, and it would have been a little bit more memorable. And I think people would have talked about that for you. Remember that time the thing exploded and there was all this like, all over Captain Archer? Yeah, that was incredible. I think if those type of risks would have made much more sense. You're going to say something?
I was saying like, like a Tasha Yar, tar monster type.
Yeah, get
all over him.
Yeah. A couple of things I want to bring up. I believe you have a friend here, Mark. I'm not going to pronounce your last name, so just go Mark S. Oh, hello.
Oh, Mark Steinstein. I
figured you would know who he was. We've got a couple of things here. Say what you will about this episode, but Scott Bakula did some great acting in this episode. Okay, well, that'll be in our redeeming features for sure. Holly, My Free Universe, totally agree. Mr. Bakula did some great acting in this one. Wes says the UPN trailer is great for this episode. Pretty much says what has gone wrong to turn the crew and the captain against each other. And then, the TV trailers for the episodes were always really misleading. That's for sure. What are the difficult parts of having a season-long arc? Was if a local affiliates didn't show them in the proper order, if you missed one and you didn't own a VCR. Yeah, that's true. You miss one of these episodes, you have no idea what's going on. Especially if you missed the first one as to why they're going to meet the Xindi. Because, the Xindi were like, hey, told by, I think, the future guy, the shadow monster, that basically Earth was going to tear them up and that was going to be the end of them. So they were like, well, screw that. We'll make a weapon and we'll destroy them. And they went and shot this huge line through Florida. And I was like, if you guys only went back in time and did that and did it in a certain area. No. So those type of things kind of do bug you out. It's like if you miss something, you miss the whole thing. The worst Xindi War Saga episode was Doctor's Orders, which preceded this one, I believe. I'm not sure if that's the one where the Doctor was by himself running around the ship. Is that one?
I think so. Maybe they can tell us. I think so.
Yeah, Wes, if you're still here, please let us know if that's the right one, because I actually like that episode. Weirdly,
it's Dr. Flock. John Billingsley had a great opportunity in that episode for his chops.
Yeah, I love Phlox. He's a great character.
He's my favorite Doctor in Trek. Yes.
Wow. Yeah, I felt like he had the most depth. Bones is great. You love Bones. He's often imitated, never originated. But he's like,
oh, come on, Phlox was a dentist as well as a psychiatrist
and a vet. at the same time. He
Full
was like,
service.
yeah, you got it all. You got it all when you got him. Another thing about playing it safe in this episode and why they did play it safe was I believe they didn't want to kind of, even though this was the only Trek show at this point on, the Voyager had ended at this point, I believe. So it was just this. And them playing it safe was to not alienate the core following that they had, because I believe at this point the numbers were dropping steadily. And they were like, well, we better not do anything too crazy or we'll lose our guys. So
the other thing was, Berman wasn't really micromanaging this show as much as he was Voyager. This was at this time still, I think, Brannon's reign as showrunner. Manny Cotto took over the next season. UPN, though, really was about the play it safe with Star Trek thing. You know, especially because, and that was the thing with Voyager too. You know, you look at DS9 and it was in syndication, and they quote unquote got away with being a little bit of a darker tone. The Xindi Saga is a pretty dark tone, but still, you know, at UPN is thinking this is 8 o'clock, prime time, a weeknight, and families are gathering to watch this. But there were darker episodes than that, and you know, Hatchery, there's nothing wrong with trying something sometimes, you know.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so I got I'm right and I'm wrong. So let's go with the wrong first. Let's get that out of the way. Future Man had nothing to do with this storyline. I forgot what told them that the whole thing was going to happen, but because I haven't watched the whole saga from the beginning, because I've only watched the one. Yes, Joe, you are correct. Woohoo! I am correct. The doctor's orders are the one with Phlox running around the ship. For some reason,
I enjoyed that episode. Yeah. And so, that T'Pol is a figment of his imagination the whole time.
Right, which I thought was super dope. They did sometimes they went far and beyond the stars, and I think they should have kind of kept to that format, because it makes it a lot of fun when we do something different, because it's more memorable. I think Phlox running around, even what he was saying in his own alien language when he was running, was something that stuck in my head. Sapru, it just stuck, and I never forgot it. And here we are, 20 some odd years later, still talking. Well, for me, still talking about Phlox running around the ship in his alien language. So I also like the effect when he smiles and his smile, his lips go like bigger. I thought that was pretty neat. There was a lot of things that I really liked about Phlox, and I would love
to, and a polygamist. Phlox was a polygamist.
Because it wasn't just women. He was a bisexual polygamist. I think he had husbands too. So it was husbands and wives.
And his wife came on to Trip, and Trip is like really embarrassed. He's like, "How do I tell Phlox about this? Phlox, your wife came on to me," and Phlox went, "Go for it."
Yeah, go.
It was hilarious.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. They had a lot of fun with that species. I would love to see more of that species. I think if they ever wanted to do short treks or anthology treks, it's an opportunity to dive into other species.
I don't know how true it is, but that they plan to have Phlox. They wanted to have Phlox in Strange New Worlds, but they told John Billingsley that he would still have to audition. I don't know how true it is, but
that's weird. I don't think he should.
Yes. Well, one thing is Phlox would be way older at that point.
Yeah, well, Billingsley is now 20-something years older, so that's...
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you say that, and in hindsight, what the hell did I just say? But
no. I know. I'm saying, like, they should totally do it. You know?
But they should. But why would they have to have a guy who's so beloved audition for his own part? So take a look at that. Like, search John Billingsley, Strange New Worlds, and he might have even been directly quoted. So I don't know how true that is, but if it is, I don't know, shame on them.
Yeah, big time. I'll call Paramount to Monday.
Yeah.
Hi. Oh, this guy again. Anyway, let us hop into the redeeming features of this episode. I forgot to change that music. Oh well. Probably gonna get a copyright strike. So the redeeming features. I'll start this one off. I think that the best thing about this one was the special guests. We had one that became a very popular actor later on. He was in Lost, and then he did I think Hawaii 5-0, and he was the guardsman that was guarding the T'Pol, I believe, or Trip. And that was really cool to see him because you go, oh wait, that's the dude. You have those Leo Caprio moments, and I thought that was excellent. And even though that's really just a small little piece of this episode, I think
he had previously done a Voyager as well.
Right.
Daniel
Yeah,
Day Kim. Yeah,
he's been. Yeah, Daniel Day Kim had been around. He's been doing a couple of things. But one of the things that I absolutely loved about this episode was they got to do the pew pews in space. When they did have a little bit of a small dogfight with the Xindi ship, the graphics, though it kind of looked like the Scimitar, like a really dumbed down Scimitar, the ship from Nemesis. It had that still the four pieces that kind of like spread out. It almost looked like a knockoff Romulan ship mixed with something else, or a wasp, so to speak. It did look cool when they threw down, and then he was kind of like surprised to see how powerful the torpedoes were, that they actually took the ship out pretty quickly. So I was like, oh, that's crazy. But I thought that those were some of the stellar moments. And of course, as mentioned in the chat, the acting from Scott Bakula was pure perfection. I think that one of the best things that Enterprise had going for it was Scott Bakula. He was a household name at the time, and I was surprised that he took the role, actually. It was always shocking to me for him to do Enterprise, because I'd always known him in Quantum Leap, but then he's done In the Mouth of Madness and so many great movies that I thought he was just going to stay in the film and expand his film career. And then he actually came back to television, not once but twice, because I think he did one of those CSIs at one point too, like New Orleans or something like that. But yeah, he did New Orleans, was it?
He was the one. Yeah. He was the one Star Trek captain that he came from an iconic role. I mean, you knew, obviously, Kate Mulgrew. She was a seasoned and well-trained and very well-respected actress prior to Enterprise. And yes, Avery Brooks was the man called Hawk. Right. But, Sam Beckett still was so iconic, especially in sci-fi, that I mean, people accepted him as Captain Archer. To me, his legacy will be both.
Right.
I think that you found Archer. There was enough of a juxtaposition between Sam Beckett and Archer. I mean, of course, Scott Bakula has such a warm presence that both characters are such, warm guys. But there's definitely there's parallels, but at the same time, he made that his own in such a way that eventually I think all the fans didn't look and see Sam Beckett. They saw Captain Archer.
Yeah, that's true. Even though
after a while,
one episode would have went, oh boy, everybody would have flipped, I think. All right, so what are your redeeming features for this episode?
All right, like I said before, I don't have that much to add to yours, but the Reed and Hayes relationship, and this is the first one, they are starting to get the respect for each other. I can understand where Reed was coming from, but I also understood where Hayes was coming from. And it said a lot about Hayes's character to say, well, look, I'm not going to disobey the captain, but I'm with you. There is something odd about this. But it is, even in the coming, previously on Enterprise before this episode, they made sure to show the conflict that Hayes, and that's a great arc, and that's an important arc through the season, a great B story, if you will. And of course, spoiler alert, once Reed got such a respect for Hayes's death for me was one of the saddest deaths in Star Trek. Oh. I really was moved by that, and Reed was with him, and they became really good friends, really, or at least two colleagues that really respected each other, which was not easy for Reed. So this episode's the first one. It moves that storyline along. Like you said, the CGI was terrific. And it had a couple of funny moments, if you will. Like, it's a little sad that little insectoid died. But when he said, look at their burial options, it's kind of funny. So this Archer Archer having this breakdown, which you can clearly see. That's the thing. They love and respect Archer so much too, that while he's having this breakdown, it's really not, let's turn on Archer. It's, we've got to save him. There's definitely something wrong with him.
Yeah.
And that was a brilliant way to do it. You know, it's a lot like when, you know, Chekhov in The Wrath of Khan, he's got the bug in his ear. And you can forgive him for all the things that he did because the bug was in his ear. And in this case, they know something's up with Archer. And so it's not this normal mutiny episode. It's let's save the captain. Let's not betray the captain. Right. So that was good about their, you know, and even Trip after the whole thing, you know, saying to Archer, I am so sorry. Mm-hmm. You did what you had to do, Trip. Yeah, but I'm so sorry. So yeah, the performance.
Pharrell from Star Trek too, because instead of like he was supposed to kill Kirk, but he was so
yes.
That he shot himself and blew himself up. So that's a great call out. Great call out.
Yeah, because that bug did kind of the same thing. That bug, which traumatized generations of children. It was the same kind of thing as what this slime did to Archer. Yeah. So those are the redeeming things. Yeah. Oh, and John Billingsley, I think. I mean, they even gave poor Mayweather something to do by tackling that Mako.
Yeah, everybody got a moment to shine. Even Hoshi got a couple.
And Hoshi has shined, you know, so many times, but poor Mayweather, you know. But yeah, they gave Mayweather a good hero's moment there.
They did.
Yeah.
One of the things that I did like about the Xindi, and I know we're deviating from the episode itself, but just overall the Xindi, is they had a bunch of different species coming together and working as a unit, even though there was some inner turmoil in the political spectrum of things. And that was kind of cool that they did team up and try to, you know, power out the whole situation. It was a very cool look into a whole type of society. And
Mm-hmm.
You think what?
Oh, I think that the Xindi was one of, you know, Star Trek, if it has any flaws, it's that we kept seeing all the same villains over again. And DS9 with the Dominion kind of broke that mold. If I was to make any comparisons with Doctor Who and Star Trek, Doctor Who has so many more adversaries, you know, than the Federation does, you know?
Yeah.
Just like every episode, it's a new introduction of a new interesting enemy. And while Star Trek's villains are so compelling, they did it with the Dominion, and now I felt like they repeated that with the Xindi. I don't know if my love of the Xindi saga is an unpopular opinion. I wanted to do an episode on it on Undiscovered Podcast. I would love to hear what other fans have to say about the Xindi saga.
Yeah,
because I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah,
it's interesting. I don't really hear too many people singing the praises of the Xindi, but I do respect a lot of the different circumstances that they had and the way that they were perceived and brought to life in this season. I thought it was a very interesting, because it's a species I've never heard of, that we may have seen like a basic character in some of the Star Trek movies or series in the past, but up until this point, I've never heard of any Xindi stuff beforehand. Now,
brand new.
If you're hearing the comments
and the fact,
familiar, just type it up.
The fact that they were all along being manipulated by the sphere builders is Star Trek's parables at its best, as well. For me,
very true. All right. Well, one of the things that we love doing here in the Agony booth is spinning a wheel. A wheel of agony. All right, we have met the makers, and of course, Daddy Worf is ready to see where we land and end up on our next episode of the Agony Booth. Of course, we have to do the ceremonial spin, and it'll decide where we end up. Now, if you're new to the channel and you're not familiar with the Wheel of Agony, it's our 2-year-old wheel that Now our Patreon Holly gets to add a episode in replacement of the one that we just removed today after we spin the wheel. So congratulations for being a con level patron. You get to choose the destiny of the Captain's Quadrant and what we watch in the future. So let me break it down. You see those red ones? Those are the really bad episodes. Ex Post Facto, The Last Outpost, and Home. The green ones are the ones that people like, especially my co-host, The Inner Light and The Last Generation. Those are good episodes that Jason Roy Gaston is a huge fan of. I'm not a fan of Inner Light. That's why it's in white. So I'm like, I could live without one. It's a little bit boring.
Take a listen to our review of that. Yeah.
Of course, the red ones are the worst, and then the other ones are kind of like, oh, some people like them, some people don't. That's Lost in Translation, A Man Alone, and Sanctuary. See, The Inner Light is twice. I would remedy that. And I'm guessing I'm putting myself in agony because I don't want to watch that episode. All right, here we go. We're going to spin the wheel, and whatever it lands on is what we'll be watching on the next Captain's Quadrant. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss a moment of the torture that is and could be the next episode of the Agony Booth. And our next episode is The Last Generation. The Last Generation from Star Trek Picard. So this is going to be like an ecstasy type of thing. In a desperate last stand, Jean-Luc Picard and generations of crews, both old and new, fight together to save the galaxy from the greatest threat they've ever faced. It's the Borg again. All right, so that wraps up the Wheel of Agony. Let us hop into the aftermath and hang out with our friends here in the chat.
We were just talking about you. Everybody hates you. Congratulations.
Congratulations. All right, let us go back and say hello to our friends and have some chats. Doctor. Mark says, wait, a ship show? I think he's referencing the terminology bottle episode. Yes, bottle episode. Bottle show, Mark. Yes. Oh, thanks, Wes. Our good buddy Damon, who is a background actor in Strange New Worlds and Section 31, the movie. TGIF, it's been a long road getting from here to there. Yeah, look, everybody loves that Star Trek theme song after years and years go by. Wes says, this is an episode that probably a cost-saving episode to save funds for the final 6 episodes as it concluded the arc. That makes sense. Shout out for Mark. Okay, My Figure Universe says, Future Man. Oh, yeah, it had nothing to do with this. Yes. This episode aired on a Wednesday. That's so random. And why on a Wednesday, Mark asked? UPN had aired Star Trek on Wednesdays from season 3 of Voyager until season 4 of Enterprise. So that was the season of Doom. Putting something on a Wednesday is like for sure not going to get ratings.
Yeah, but Voyager was on Wednesday too. It followed their time slot.
Yeah, but the Voyager was having an up and down rating with itself too. I just think that they should have just left everything on CBS or UPN. Your memory is greater than mine. So Wes is like a Trek guru over here. You're getting some love. The first 2 seasons of Voyager aired on Monday night. That's interesting. Voyager didn't air in our local area until Tuesdays. I'm glad there was no internet to spoil it back then. Oh, that, man, can you imagine? Yeah. Our good friends, the Crusher Convo podcast, is stopping by to say hi. And Wes says, I did an episode of Twin City Trekkies just like this, talking about Star Trek actors in the television and other television series. Oh, yeah, the amazing cast members that show up everywhere. Of course, Crusher Combo says, pew pews. We love the ships blasting each other. Really cool. I was right. CIS New Orleans. Thank you, Holly. We appreciate that. Bakula said that if Archer had been after Janeway, he would have declined the role. But after he was told that Enterprise was a sequel to TOS, he signed on. That's interesting. I'm surprised because I always thought Trek was a future progressive show. So I expected it to go forward into the timeline rather than go backwards. So I always thought that was part of the reason why it didn't do well as some of the other Star Trek shows, because people want to know, okay, what's Voyager crew doing? What's Deep Space Nine? What's TNG?
Yeah.
like even if they mention it in a throwaway, oh, Captain Picard tripped and fell, and he's no longer walking, and he's hanging up.
When I heard Enterprise was going to be a prequel, that the next show was going to be a prequel after Voyager, I had assumed it was going to be a Pike show.
Oh wow!
But they gave us even before that, and now of course we have our Pike show.
Yeah, we did. We finally got Pike.
Yeah.
Wes says Bakula was the last actor cast in Enterprise. Interesting. Remember, Archer forced them to get along. Settle it. That's an order. It's okay. He eventually became the first officer of the Enterprise E. Interesting. Traumatized me, Greg. And this is the bug area. Yeah, those bugs, our buddy Holly, 79. Yeah, those bugs from Khan were nightmare-inducing. You know, there is a real bug that it's a beetle that kind of has that same pincer thing going on. And it's a wood beetle, and I happened to had one of those invade my home when I lived in New York, and it terrified the bejesus out of me, but I didn't have a phaser to shoot it, so I just ran. You want to see a very burly man become very chickeny? Get some big old bugs coming in.
Can I give you a tidbit about the bugs?
Oh, absolutely.
A guy who worked at a video store was wearing, when JJ 09 came out on video, he was wearing the insignia.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, a Trekkie. And he said, and this is one of the things that I love what the JJ films did was bring in new fans. And he said that because he saw Star Trek 09, he went back and watched all the Star Treks. And what had happened, and he then became a Trekkie. What had happened was when he was a kid, he saw Khan. The part with the bugs going into the ear traumatized him, and so he associated Star Trek with trauma and thought that was all Star Trek, all these moments of like gore like that.
Yeah.
So he didn't watch Star Trek. He boycotted Star Trek his entire life until he saw Trek 09 and loved it and went back and saw it all, became a Trekkie.
Well,
Trekker, whatever you.
Whatever, yeah. There's another bug episode in Star Trek: The Next Generation. We had the honor of doing a live show with the captain of that episode, Captain Scott. Ursula Bryant herself sat down and we did an agony booth on that, even though it's a great episode, and that's the conspiracy bugs. And there's a little bit of
great episode
with that. But if you want to check that out, be sure to go back in our backlog of our live episodes, and you can watch that one. That's right straight off the convention floor. Where we had hosted our panel, the Agony Booth Live. Dinner Light was one of the best episodes of Star Trek of all time. Well, it depends on what they're having. Oh, the Inner Light, sorry, is one of the best episodes of Star Trek from all time. Yeah, it's easy to typo. Don't worry, I do it all the time, even in my posts. So, we're all human. None of us are data. Yes, from your friend Sean over on the Undiscovered Part, I'm sure. Hi, Greg. I'm going to go back to work now. Great stuff here. Good to see you, Sean. Mr. Faust. Martin Madden from our friend Wes. I'm very thankful for J.J. Abrams with his film bringing in new fans. Yeah, all right. I got to ask you, since we're on the Abrams topic, and that's going to be the next movie that we dive into, is Star Trek 09, because we're doing it chronologically. Do you think that they will make a fourth Star Trek? This also goes out to Wes, My For Universe, and whoever else is in the chat. Holly, hopefully you're still here, and Crusher Combo. Do you think we'll get the Star Trek 4? And do you think they will pull back from the very Fast and the Furious type of direction that they had gone into from Star Trek Beyond?
I would like to say yes. I know that some of the actors, and now Zoe Saldana won an Oscar. Carl Urban is The Boys and everywhere. It came and went with the actors. I mean, they were game for a while, then they weren't anymore. And then they were, and then they weren't. And Carl Urban, Chris Pine, Simon Pegg, all said, I think even Zoe said at one point, they all said they're down. They want to do it, but there's script issues. There was also, I believe Simon said, it's so hard without Anton. Is that, are we betraying Anton by going on? There was also the matter that Star Trek Beyond wasn't the biggest box office hit. Like '09 was massive, and then Into Darkness was massive hit. Into Darkness being the previous movie being, I think, the highest grossing Star Trek movie in theatrical release of all time.
Yeah,
and there were so many people disappointed by Into Darkness that Beyond's grosses went down, but yet I think the Kelvin timeline deserves a good finale. I really do. And it could work to their advantage that they're all, older now. Of course, they're all still young people, but it might work to their advantage that it's been years later and maybe they have disbanded at that point, or that enterprise has been, decommissioned, so that perhaps they have to go on one final journey. Some people have suggested that maybe a Star Trek 4 can fix the Kelvin timeline, and that in order to save the world, they have to erase the Kelvin timeline from ever happening.
That's funny that you mentioned it, because some people here in the chat are totally agreeing with you. I think if they were to make a fourth film, it needs to be along the lines of The Wrath of Khan, where they are all near an older age. Of course, the Holly says, I hope they do a fourth movie. Just hope the script is good. I agree, totally. My Figure Universe says, I hope they wouldn't kill off Chekhov yet, but have him reassigned to the Reliant. That would be interesting. It would be cool to see a Abrams universe, a Kelvin timeline Reliant, because it would have that ginormous bubble nacelles. That would be weird, but
I think that was one of the difficulties, is that they don't want to kill the character, but yet he's not there. I mean, it's tough because they were a family. They were a real family.
Yeah. I think the best thing is to have him be reassigned to the Reliant. I think that would be, he's on the Reliant, and then you would have this whole new timeline, because they already took care of Khan, so it's not like Khan's going to come back. That story's done. So I think that would be fantastic. And of course, My Figure Universe says exactly what you're saying, was perhaps they could find a way to completely end the Kelvin universe. Yes, close the loop. They opened it with 09, and they can close it back with the fourth one. Probably be in 2029. So there you go. It'll be your years later Star Trek story. We're all fit. Maybe they'd have a Kelvin universe Klingon General Chang that could be played by I don't know, somebody really good. I think we'll get a fourth.
For some reason, Daniel Craig came into my mind. I don't know why.
Ooh, that would be
Plumber. He's of that caliber. So.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Or Mads Mikkelsen, I think would be a dope.
Yes.
General Chang. I think that would be really cool. And one of the amazing things on the Captain's Quadrant, we've had a lot of great interviews with folks that work behind the scenes in Star Trek. One of the interesting people that we met was Thomas Sopron. Jason Roy Gasson interviewed him. That's a earlier episode of our section 31 and a half, because we have questions. And he gave us the tip, because he actually worked on the film. And he said, if you look closely, freeze the frame when General Chang's on screen, and you blow up his eye patch, he's so dedicated to those, bolts that are connecting the eye patch to the eye have the Klingon insignia in each of them.
Awesome.
And I think that is a dope detail that I'm glad to know, because of our amazing co-host Jason Roy Gaston, who I'm hopefully will be back next week. Wes says Beyond's box office suffered from the soliloquitus, which 2016 had plenty of sequels. Beyond is the sole Paramount box office success of 2016. Oh wow, I didn't know that. So they should just keep going. Well, I don't think we'll actually get to see it. It's just a way of explaining why the actor isn't in there since he died. Yeah, I think just a minor. Oh yeah, he had to go and do stuff on the Reliant will work.
Reliant would make a lot of sense. That he was first officer, then you could say he was captain.
Oh, captain.
They Captain Chekhov. Yeah, Yeah.
It could work.
Considering where Chekhov's ancestor went in Picard, being like the head of Starfleet or the Federation.
Something like that.
In Picard there,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, he was the president. His kid was the president. Yeah, his descendant. But it was actually voiced by Walter Koenig. So correct.
Oh, it was Walter Koenig. It might have been his grandson.
No, it was actually it was Chekhov's grandson, but it was voiced by the original.
Yes.
Yeah, actor, the original actor. He was the president of Earth, the Federation president. And then my freaking Universe says Star Trek Beyond was my favorite of all the Kelvin films, and Wes agrees with you. So that's pretty interesting. Okay, we are coming to a close, and before we do such, we would like to hear about the Undiscovered Pod and all the fun that you guys had. And you can hear my amazing voice twice on their podcast. Go and tell the folks where they can find you and what it's all about.
And you'll definitely be back as well.
Yeah, of course.
Star Trek: The Undiscovered Podcast. We started in 2023. We do seasons. We don't do straight, every week ongoing. We do seasons. So we're in season 3. So if you head over to Spotify, Good Pods, iHeart, Apple, pretty much all of them, you can find Star Trek: The Undiscovered Podcast. So you get to hear there's 2 full seasons up there. There's bonus shows. There's enough bonus shows actually to constitute a whole other season. And we're in the mix a little like halfway through season 3 right now. And we've been running from 2023 to now. We've been running from February to June. Star Trek: The Undiscovered Podcast. And also check out the spin-off podcast of that. With our resident film critic from Star Trek: The Undiscovered Podcast, Kyle Bain, Real Reactions with Greg and Kyle, where we review films that we encourage you to watch those films before you listen to the reviews because they're filled with spoilers, but they are all films that are under the radar that I feel deserve a little bit more recognition. So there's 2 podcasts to hear. That podcast, though, is in no way as big as Star Trek: The Undiscovered Podcast.
Amazing. I am super excited to have you as a guest, and you survived the agony. So I'll make sure to get you some agony booth threads or stickers.
Yeah, do worse next time.
Yeah,
make it even more agony.
Yeah, I mean, you missed the favorite of many fans.
My favorite, Code of Honor.
Yeah, you missed out on the Code of Honor episode. That one was a tough one to go back to, but.
We're going to be in the agony booth ourselves, although we don't call it that. Copyright infringement. We'll be doing an episode later this season in which our regular guest who does not watch Star Trek, and we make him later this season. We're going to do John Seymour watches a horrible Star Trek, and Kyle is a victim too, and that is the literal name of the episode.
Oh, wow. It's a long one. It's a mouthful. All right. So make sure you go and check that out. We will be back. Now, if you are a wonderful person like the amazing Holly Mac 79, you get an opportunity right after this close out to go hang out with me in Discord and chat a bit. That'll be happening for those of you that are reaching the con tier. And that is available now. You can go to our Patreon. The link is below. If you click on that, there's 3 tiers, and they're all represented by some of the greatest villains in Trek. Tomalak, Goldacott, and of course, Khan. And in the Khan level, you get a t-shirt, you get the Discord, and you get so many wonderful things. And we really appreciate you becoming a patron. So we will say again to you, thank you for joining us, Craig. And of course, our good buddy, Holly, thank you once again. Have avenged you. Until next week, everybody, take care, be well, live long, and prosper.
You've made it through the Agony Booth, a Captain's Quadrant show. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you share this video with 5 people, 5 people will also be in agony. Join us every Friday at 9 p.m. EST for more live shows, including Wormholes, Section 31 and a half, because we have questions, and at the movies.